What is up? It's your boy Johnny Shreve, IFBB Pro, Mr. Tell Like It Is. Welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk with Shreve. Today, guys, we're going to react to Athlean-X video, Get a Chiseled Lower Chest. No bullshit guide. We're diving into it, guys, and I'm going to give my opinions and point of view on how to help you develop your under chest the most optimal way. Let's get into it.
What's up, guys? Jeff Cavalier, Athlean-X.com. So if your lower chest looks like this, completely undefined, at worst even sagging, well, all the decline bench presses in the world aren't going to fix your problem. But the good news is, I can. As a matter of fact, I can help you to actually shape your chest more like this. And it starts with not just the right exercises, but also doing the exercises the right way. I'm going to give you a game plan today.
Now, I get it, guys. See that he's doing a little part here to get you guys motivated, inspired to watch the video. And for those who might not know that, I just want to make sure it's very clear that those two pictures are two completely different people. Number one, you have on one side someone that looks like they do not train and has a higher body fat percentage. And the guy on the right looks like he definitely does train and has a lower body fat percentage. Let's go from the guy who's not in shape to the guy who's in shape. The only way to get there is a couple ways. Number one, it's going to be nutrition. You have to be in a lower body fat percentage to see muscle definition. So it doesn't matter how many times that you do decline bench or any kind of exercise, possibly any kind that's going to target your lower chest. If your body fat percentage is too high, you're not going to see the definition of your chest. Now, couple that with, if you do not train either, you can lose all the weight you want, and you can definitely, look, when you get lean enough, and you're skinny no matter what, say you're skinny, you have no muscle, regardless if you get lean enough, you're going to see the difference between each muscle group because of the overall body fat percentage. But when it comes to the development of the actual muscle, it needs to be trained. So when it comes to it, those two things have to happen for the guy on the right or left, the guy in shape, to actually occur.
See, when it comes to guys, there's perhaps no more sensitive issue than fixing a sagging lower chest, because along with it also comes a lot of taunting. You know, the locker room talk. All the words that may have been thrown at you throughout your entire childhood and maybe even to this day. Well, what if I told you that starting today, you'll never have to hear that crap again?
So let's just talk about like the couple of the terms that are used. That are 100% definitely something that I've heard in the locker room. I've been guilty. I've said it before. I've definitely, made that comment to, you play football in your locker. Anyone who is watching this, who's played on teams, not saying it's right, but it happens, right? We're kids, we're teens, young adults, we taunt each other, we say things, and so forth. And I understand that those things are very sensitive to some people. But again, those terms, man boobs, man tits, whatever it is, isn't necessarily talking about the underdeveloped muscularity of somebody's chest, more so than the accumulative fat that's on the chest. So again, in order to get rid, and that's the kind of angle sometimes that people take with these videos, and I don't think the video's wrong at all. I think Athlean-X is actually doing a great job, but it kind of gives off the sometimes impression to some people because they might misinterpret some things and think that, okay, if I want to look like I have a nice chest, I got to do these exercises. And he definitely says and touches on the fact that you need to have your nutrition in check, watch the things you're putting in your mouth and making sure you're not eating too much, you accumulate too much fat so you can't see the definition. He says that. But again, we're looking at videos like this that are 9 minutes long, no matter what. Even my analytics, if I do a video that's 10 minutes, it's like great watch time, 4 minutes. It's sometimes less than the time, it's less than half the length of the entire video. So I want to make sure that for whoever's watched this, that this is what he actually still means. No matter what, man boobs are going to go away. Man boobs are going away, or accumulative fat tissue, adipose tissue under your chest is only going away by making sure that your body fat percentage is low. And the only way you can do that is by eating in a deficit and or doing cardio that puts you in a deficit where you're losing fat. The only way to develop your chest is to train your chest. The only way to see the trained chest is to make sure your nutrition is right, so your body fat percentage is at a level where you can see a trained chest.
You're just simply dealing with a lack of chest development, and specifically lower chest development. But it's here that the science of chest training actually proves to me that I can help you, because we know that with the right selection of exercises and with the right training techniques, this area is actually very fixable, especially when it's in this state.
And he's right, 100%. When it comes to exercise selection, if you're doing the things right. Again, remember, we're talking about a checklist, making sure full range of motion, good time and attention, right? Lifting with attention, whatever. Those things, if you do them right, you're basically putting your body in the right environment to stimulate muscle growth. So if there's a underdeveloped muscle on your body, you can develop that muscle by making sure that you're loading it properly with a full range of motion and a good time and attention. Now, what you get out of that is very, very is going to be determined on how your genetics shape your chest, right? For me, my chest is shaped a certain way. There's a bunch of chests that look different. I know that for my chest, no matter the shape it is, I know the shape of my chest, I know that it can get bigger. I know genetically, for me, my chest caved in like this. Forever, I had no chest in here. My pec minor, like here, to like mid part of my chest was like hollow. All I could do was make sure I picked exercises that would target this part of the chest. And if I focus hard enough on that and loaded it properly, put it in the environment long enough, this part of my chest would grow. I would be able to fill in the gaps. What I won't be able to do is make it look different. Is make it look more like, say, Arnold's or Phil Heath's. Or there's some guys who have obviously different types of chests, like, for example, Fred Smalls. Fred Smalls has a open part of his chest. His chest is spread apart naturally. Like, that's just how it looks. There's a couple of guys who have chests that look like that. There's also the guys who are made from the Middle East who have these like barrel, like most Persians have this barrel pigeon chest that like starts like up here and just comes all the way out. It's just, it's massive. Like, I'm in awe when I see it. Regardless, I'll never be able to make my chest look like that. All I'll be able to do is to fill it in. Now, when it comes to loading the muscle properly, we need to know the anatomy of the chest and how it actually moves. And this part of here, I gotta go with my boy because we want to make things very clear. There are 3 heads of the chest, and they all do certain things. But for the main part, the chest muscle as a whole, I'm saying the chest muscle as a whole does shoulder adduction, flexion, extension, internal rotation of the shoulder. So let's just keep going.
You see, our anatomy actually gives us more than just optimism for developing your lower chest. It gives you the actual roadmap of how to do it. Because we know that we have 3 separate heads of the chest. The clavicular or upper portion of the chest, the sternal or the main compartment of the chest, and then we have this lower abdominal head, which runs from this high to low direction. If we can choose the right exercises to follow these fibers.
So to make things very clear, and I like how he explains the anatomy of the chest, because I've explained it a gazillion times. I'm going to continue to explain it a gazillion times so we understand that we can be a little smarter about our training in order to get the physique that we want and produce the physique that we can genetically produce. So when it comes to it, we do have 3 parts of the chest, right? So the clavicle head of the chest, or the pec minor, is going to do shoulder adduction and flexion. Flexion basically is like doing this. The shoulder will do this. The pec minor, the clavicle head of the chest, will pull it in. It'll do horizontal adduction and it'll do flexion from your arm at its side. So if my arm's sitting at its side, it'll pull my arm up this way. If my arm's sitting like this, it'll pull it this way, and it will help with this way as well too. The sternal head of my chest is gonna pull my arm in as well too. It'll also do shoulder internal rotation, right? So if I kind of do this, you kind of feel like your chest gets a little tighter, right? Just doing this, your chest gets tight, right? And then we have that abdominal wall of the head of the chest that is coming from high to low. It's going to help with shoulder extension. Now, shoulder extension coming from a flexed position. And it's just the misunderstanding that, yes, the chest does do shoulder extension, but only does shoulder extension when it's in a flexed position, which means it's up here and pulling something down like this because it comes from high to low. When it's sitting down at its side and doing nothing, the chest isn't necessarily going to do any extension at all. If anything, it's just going to aid with shoulder depression. So if you like take your elbows like this, if you're sitting down, just do this and do like, I don't know, do like this, whatever. And I want you to take your elbows and push them to the floor. I want you to keep pushing your elbows to the floor. And you'll probably feel under your chest getting pretty tight. I've made that cue a few times when it comes to doing even deadlifts. Helping your brace, depressing your shoulder. Now, again, when it comes down to the whole entirety of it, you can load the muscle you're targeting, but you can't necessarily isolate it. You can't isolate one part of the chest. You can load it because of just straight up gravity, but you can't just do pec minor, then just only this part of your chest is going to grow. The entire chest is going to grow. How you load it is different. So now that we have a good understanding of the anatomy of the chest, let's think about like what exercise do we need to do to help build the lower part of the chest, right? So think about it. Anything that's going to load this part of the chest first, what exercise will do that? So for me, some of my favorite is going to be dips and then cables from high to low. Reason why I don't like doing other exercises like, decline bench is straight because you don't get enough stretch at the bottom of the lift. Unless you're using like a camera bar, and that'd be kind of really weird to do in that position. Like I wouldn't recommend doing, decline like that. But when it comes to the 4-range motion, or when it comes to exercise selection, we're trying to pick movements that are going to get the most amount of stretch while continuing to keep that muscle under a load. That's what we want the most. So when it comes to like decline bench, you're not going to be able to get that stretch when it comes to the stretching of the chest. It's basically how far that shoulder can come back or the elbow can come back this way. So on the way up like this, how far can it come back and really stretch the pec? When it's with a barbell, well, you're not going to be able to get as far back as if, say, they had dumbbells. When it comes to loading and stretching it, dips are amazing exercise to do. And then again, when it comes to doing the actual exercise, having a good stretch and then pushing straight all the way through. Now, again, when it comes to loading the muscle, what we want to understand is, again, what's the best part of the lift that's going to stimulate muscle growth the most? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves when it comes to any kind of exercise, when it comes to any muscle group. It doesn't matter what exercise you're doing. It's when we're in that stretch position, the chest is being stretched, the shoulders are down and depressed, and you're getting a nice stretch under a load. You're not disengaged, just stretching there, letting the weight just push you back. You're almost pulling and keeping that muscle engaged the entire time. That stretch and contraction, right? Parts of the lift that are going to give you the most amount of muscle growth is going to be the negative going into the stretched part of the lift. So like riding that down and then stretching and then pushing on the way up, that's how we want to make sure we're performing the lift. Now, when it comes to like how long should your negative be, that, riding the weight down, 2 to 3 seconds. 2 to 3 seconds all the way down, nice stretch at the bottom and up. That's about, 2 second negative, 1 second maybe pause at the bottom, then on the way up, that's about 4 seconds. That's a fairly long rep. That's going to put your body in position to build muscle better. Now, again, when we're doing a negative like that, we also don't have to use a load that's going to be that great either, because we are under the stretch very long, and then we're in that position because we're riding the negative down very long, and we're in that position, and then we're in a stretch position under a load. You won't be able to load it as much, but you also want to make sure you're grabbing a weight that's going to be, I would say, something between like 60-70% of your 1 rep max, around that. If you want it to be, I don't know, an arbitrary number that makes sense to me. Okay, so the most important part of the entirety of this is going to be what should our rep look like. When it comes down to the exercise that we have, that's going to give us the most amount of stretch, 4-range of motion, right? And then be able to keep that load on the muscle. How should the rep actually look to make sure we're doing that? Well, the best way to stimulate muscle growth is, again, a negative of around 2 to 3 second negative, and then a nice stretch at the bottom of the lift. So you're not just down and then it kind of bounces back up. You're like pulling it down, and then you're opening and stretching, and then you're pushing it back up. Now that contraction, that concentric contraction, can be very explosive and under control, but the main part that's going to give you the most amount of muscle stimulus is going to be riding the weight down, stretching at the bottom, and then driving up. Remember that. The negative and then the stretch under a load. So think of that when you're looking at what type of exercise should I do. What's going to give you the most full range of motion and the ability to keep that load in that negative and then at the bottom of the stretch? Well, for me, it's going to be dips and then cables coming from high to low. So when it comes to doing like a cable fly, we don't have the cross midline. Here's a little trick you can do. And you just basically make sure you do this while you're doing cable flies. It could be, coming from high to low, middle or low to high. Doesn't really matter. This is going to be one of those little techniques that you're going to do that are very simple. That's going to make you like, holy geez, my chest is killing me. Basically do this. Take hands like this, right? Shoulders back away from your ears, right? Shoulders back and away from your ear. And you're going to have your hands fully extended, basically like this. And you're going to push your fingers first and then straight down. And then you're going to touch the palm of your hand, like this part. So you're going to go like this. You're going to kind of do this and then do that. And then you're going to put all the weight right there. Right, while we're here, right? Shoulders back away from your ears, push away. So you're going to push away, and then you're going to drive your hands and then your fingers, tips, and then to your palm, the bottom of your palm, and you're going to push your palm still and push away. Push your palm against your palms and push away like this. Literally do this. Shoulders back and do that. Literally do that. You're going to do that at the end of your lift. So all the way back here, and then pushing through there. All the way back here, and then stretching and pushing through like that. The same thing when you do your dip. Not only are you going to come down on the way through, when you're all the way up, you're going to continue to push and depress your shoulders, which is going to put even more emphasis on your abdominal wall of your chest. Remember, guys, we're trying to get this thing to work here. This is going to help push this thing down. Doing those two things I just showed you, that's helping. That is being aided by here. So from here to here and pushing down, right? We want to do that coming on a down from here to here. So I'm finishing here and continuing to push. Do the same thing with doing dips. We talked about exercises. We've talked about the rep in terms of the full range of motion and the time and attention. Now there's a couple other things we can consider that can help aid that part of the body as well too. That abdominal wall of the chest is going to aid in some other exercises that are going to load that and develop it even more. So if you're looking at something like doing like an ab wheel, literally like the ab wheel on the ground where you go and roll out and come back, doing that is going to target that part of the muscle as well too. If you want to couple that at the end of the exercise and add a little ab exercise in there, doing like an ab wheel is going to develop that chest, that part of your chest as well too. Now, if you're doing back and you're like, hey man, I want to, on my back day, how can I still get a little chest in there? Well, guess what? Doing straight arm pull downs are going to do the same thing. They're going to definitely 100% target more of the teres and the lats because they're from all the way here and pulling down, but on the way straight through all the way to the bottom, you're starting to pull in some of that abdominal wall of the chest. So these are some things you can do to add to your training to help build that part of your chest even more. For me, genetically, my chest was always caved in. So every exercise that I did when it came to chest had something to target here. It was always targeting here some way. Even when it comes to like my rear delts, I'm always going to do something that's going to have my rear delts in there, whether it's on my push day or my pull day, or even maybe on my leg day. All right, so to wrap this thing up, again, when it comes to developing your chest, it's exercise selection, making sure you're picking exercises that are going to put you in the best position to be in the full range of motion and time and attention while loading the muscle. And then after that, we have to make sure that our body fat percentage is low enough to be able to see that hard work that you put in. And if you're having issues understanding how to do so and you want to have the answers and know how to keep yourself in a sustained body fat percentage to see your hard work, get my ebook right now. The Final Diet is in the link in the description below. Anyway, guys, more videos like this, let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you guys binge watch my videos. Until next time, you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.